today is February the 11th, and it's one of the shortened days. So what I'm going to do is record this class period because it's one of the longer periods. We are still working on ratios and rates, and it's honestly just like last week, just like yesterday. You just have some choices here. You can either use a ratio table, or you can just use fractions. The key is I got to see the words, kind of like the original fraction, and then what you change it to. So that's why I asked y'all to just put them on an empty desk around you, and it's fine. Thank you. Now, here we go. So, starting out, these are the notes. First, you are wanting to just pick out what is important, what is not. Here we go. So, on number 1 here, out of 30 students surveyed, 17 have a dog. Based on these results, predict how many of the 300 students in the school have a dog. Now, first off, you do want to label it with at least like have a dog compared to total students or something. Because when you write the description, you cannot flip-flop the numbers for what you mean. Okay? So, the way I've been doing it, I just put like have a dog, total students. Now, I kind of use a makeshift box thing. You don't have to, meaning I just don't draw the box. I draw the little squares, but not the box. Okay, step 1 is, I don't know why y'all aren't thinking. Get with me, people. Okay, so out of 30 students surveyed, 17 have a dog. So 17 needs to be on the top, 30 needs to be on the bottom. Now, I kind of do this, just since it's the first one we've done. I kind of leave some space here. I may use it, I may not, but who cares? I got it if I need it, okay? Now, they want me to find out what if there's 300 total students. Now, this is where I kind of get out a calculator. I kind of play with numbers. I need to get from a 30 to a 300. Okay, is it times 10, divide by 10? Times 10. Okay, and I check it. 30 times 10 is. And make sure that I get 300. So, if I times 10 on bottom, and then I do the same math up here, 170. So, 170 students would have a dog out of 300 total students. Making sure you got the numbers and the words, like total students, have a dog, that kind of thing. Okay. Number 2. If 1 out of 12 students share a locker, how many share a locker in a school of 456 students? Okay, so think about it. It's how many share compared to like total kids, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Share a locker. Okay, compared to total students. Making sure I pull the numbers out and put them in the right place. 1 out of 12. So 1 should be on the top out of 12. Okay. And I'm trying to get all the way to 456. Now, listen, I do not know my 12s tables to get to 456. But what I would do is pull out a calculator and see if what?
38.
But how can I figure out, like, how to get from a 12 to a 456?
456.
Divide by 12, right. So if I divide by 12, and I'm literally just playing with a calculator. Guys, if you won't do this with me, later you're going to be lost on how to get this number. So pick up your calculator and try 456 divided by 12. 38. Now, what I would do is this. Before you start doing the top math, make sure, take your calculator and do, like, from left to right, 12 times 38, and make sure you get 456. Okay, so if you've got that, you know you're doing the right math. So on the top, 1 times 38 is 38. I know that it's silly to kind of do it twice or whatever you want to call it, but it's double checking that the math worked. Okay, so 38 students shared a locker or would share a locker out of 456, I'll call it total students. Little explanation. Gotta have an explanation every time. Okay. Looking at the next one. If 84 cookies will serve 28 students, how many cookies are needed for 30 students? Cookies and students, yes. So 84 cookies go with 28 students.
You would have to use 2 in the middle.
Okay, now, there's actually, if you're changing 28 to 30, I kind of set a 2 in the middle also. You can do that. What if I made you do a unit rate, though? What if I made you, what if the only thing you could do is figure out how much one student gets? How could we do that? Divide by 28. Okay, and the reason I'm showing you this is, if there is no other math that you can do, you may have to do this. So how many cookies does one student get? 28 divided by 28 is 1. What's 84 divided by 28? 3. Now, if every kid gets 3 cookies, and there's 30 kids, how many cookies do they get? 90. It really doesn't matter how you got 90. Like if you did the 2 thing, that's fine. I just wanted to show y'all unit rate works every time. It's just sometimes with unit rate, you might get a decimal. As long as that decimal ends like 0.5, 0.75, 0.2, use it. Use it. Okay. Question, Jacob. You good? Dylan, question. No, you good? Okay, making sure. So, 30 students would need, 90 cookies to 30 students. That's fine. Students would need 90. I just got to make sure you put the right number with the right thing. And on the test, a lot of you did flip that. You would say 90 students need 30 cookies. Be careful not to flip those things. Okay, a survey reported that out of 50 teenagers, 9 said they get their news from the newspaper. At this rate, how many out of 300 teenagers would you expect to get their news from a newspaper? Okay. Let's see, newspaper.
Total teenagers.
Yeah, I'm going to put newspaper on top. You could put like read newspaper. Just make sure you word it right when you write your explanation. To total students, total teenagers. Okay. 9 said they get it from a newspaper out of 50. So what if there were 300 teenagers? Y'all see it? So 50 times what is 300? 6. And 9 times 6 is 54. So 54 students. Okay, so that's the notes. But listen, what I'm going to do is keep going. This class, of course, being like I said earlier, a little bit longer. Hopefully we will get through as much as we can. We'll already, if not all of it. The schedule is so weird. One class takes it through 2 of them, and the next class is finished it. So it just matters what class period you have. Okay. Whoa. You don't have to make the boxes if you don't want to. You can do the fractions. I just keep making little boxes. Grids. They don't have to be perfect boxes, is what I'm saying. It's okay. Okay. Here we go. So, trying to see how much we can get done. Same things, just different style. These are more of the word problem style. Now they'll have you hang on to it. Just so you have stuff to study with, to be honest. Okay, so here we go. It says, a Clydesdale drinks about 120 gallons of water every 4 days. At this rate, how many gallons of water does a Clydesdale drink in 28 days? So gallons to days. You can put gallons of water if you want, that's fine. Get with me, guys. Okay, so right here it says 120 gallons in 4 days. And they're wanting us to change it because of this number down here to 28.
Wow.
Okay. So kind of testing the math. 4 times what is 28? 7. 120 times 7 is 840. There you go. Yeah, I like that. Clyde's. I can't spell it. Okay, Clydesdale's drink. A Clydesdale's a horse. A big, pretty horse. It's a horse. 840 gallons of water in 28 days. Make sure you got the numbers in there. Number 2, Nate spends $28 on 2 DVDs. At this rate, how much would 5 DVDs cost? So, I'm going to do money on top, DVDs on bottom. $28 for 2.
Divided by 2. 2.5
And I'm trying to get to 5.
times 2.5.
Okay. What if you don't know it's times 2.5 though?
I use my calculator.
And did what?
5 divided by 2.
5 divided by 2. Okay.
Yes.
So you could do 5 divided by 2 and then realize it's times 2.5. What else? Chris? Yes. That's kind of the way I did it. I thought, well, 1 DVD, and it doesn't matter what you do in this middle box. I just kind of thought 1 DVD is half, which is $14, right? So times 1 times 5 is 5. 14 times 5 is 70. It does not matter which way you do this, as long as we all get that it's $70 for 5 DVDs.
5 DVDs cost 70. Cost 76.
And just make sure you don't tell me for 2 CDs or DVDs, 1 DVD. Some of you all were picking out kind of the wrong numbers when you explained it. So you might have even had all this right, but then down here, I took off 1.
Didn't you say money's usually always on top?
Usually money's on top, yes. Okay, number 3. 4 students spent $12 on school lunch. At this rate, find the amount 10 students would spend on the same school lunch. Okay, so I'm going to put the money on top, students on bottom. So it is $12 for 4 students. And they're basically wanting to know how much is 10 students. You could do 1. You could put a 1 here or a 2 here. It's one of those whichever one you want to use kind of things. If I go to a 1, it's 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 12 divided by 4 is 3. Then I can kind of think, well, 1 times 10 is 10. So 3 times 10 is 30.
So basically $3 a month.
Yes.
This one is getting smaller.
Okay. Number 4. If 15 baseballs weigh 75 ounces, how many baseballs weigh 15 ounces? Okay. Baseballs to ounces. I don't really know that it matters which way you do this. I guess this is number of baseballs, if you want to get technical, to ounces. So 15 baseballs weigh 75 ounces. Now the 15 ounces needs to be on the bottom. Be careful, be careful.
What's 75 divided by 15? 5. So divided by 5.
So, to get from a 75 to a 15 is what?
Divided by 5.
Divide by 5, right? The numbers are getting smaller.
Oh, I think you did that.
So if I divide on the top by 5, I get 3.
3 baseballs. 15.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is kind of let y'all keep going. I'm going to honestly keep working it myself, kind of seeing if there's anything I need to give you a hint about. But I want to just challenge you for a few. So what I'm going to do now is try two different ways of teaching this. I'm going to go back to the notes that I did earlier in the video, but I'm going to do it a different way. I'm going to do it both ways, is all I'm saying. Okay, in hopes that it helps maybe my friends that multiplication tables aren't their best friend. Okay? So, all it is today, we are doing the same stuff. This is the note sheet. Make sure you got the right paper, meaning it's got notes. Up here in the corner, it says notes. Okay. Same stuff. You can either do a fraction, you can do a ratio table. It doesn't really matter. I kind of do this like modified ratio table, so I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay. It says, out of 30 students surveyed, 17 have a dog. Based on these results, predict how many of the 300 students in the school have a dog. So the first thing you kind of have to do is figure out what numbers go together. So starting out, it says 30 students, or out of 30, 17 have a dog. So they go together. Now, so I'm going to set up my ratio table. I'm just not going to draw all the boxes. Watch. Okay, have a dog. And it's kind of like total students. Okay. Now, 30 students total and 17 have a dog. All I'm doing is starting out with the information they gave us. Now, based on these results, predict how many of the 300 students in the school have a dog. So, if that number of total students changes from 30 to 300. Okay. Well, here's the problem. Some of us don't. We're going to have to figure out two things. Are the numbers getting bigger or smaller? So, like from here to here, are they getting bigger or smaller?
Bigger.
Bigger. So, that would mean that we're multiplying. And then what are we multiplying by? 10. Okay, so 30 times 10. And I'm checking it. Is 30 times 10 300? Yes. Like you're checking it before you do the top because you want to make sure it's right. 30 times 10 is 300. Okay. Now if that times 10 works to get the 300, then we're going to do the times 10 on top. But listen, that's the math that's being done. That's what's being put in the calculator, which is 170. Okay, so you just figured out that if there were 300 students, 170 would have a dog. Yes. Okay, now, there is another style of doing this, and I just want to show you. If you don't see the times 10 thing, because that's confusing to you, okay, watch what I'm going to do, and I'm just going to kind of do it a different way. I still have the same setup. In fact, I can actually move that over. So something like that. I've got a 17 and a 30. And I'm trying to get it to 300. Does everybody agree? Okay. So if you don't see the times 10, what you can always do is figure out what's called a unit rate. How much is 1? I want you to think about this, because this is, Miss Sawyer's kids were doing this and it was working for them. Meaning, if you don't know how to get from 30 to 300, what you might want to do is learn this method. It is, okay, what if I change this bottom number to a 1? I want to get a 1 there. Well, I need you to think, how do you get from a 30 to a 1?
Divided by 30.
Divide by 30. Okay, and if you're not positive, use the calculator and literally do, well, 30 divided by 30 is 1. Okay, so to get from here to here, on this one, I divided by 30. Does everybody agree? Okay, so what if I do that on top? I know it's going to give me a weird number, but 17 divided by 30. Okay, I will say is an ugly fraction. Does everybody agree? Or decimal?
Yes.
Okay. But I want to ask you this, and I'm just going to write down a few digits here.
We don't have to say all of it.
Just watch. It's ugly though, right? What is my next jump? From the 1 to the 300 would be
Times 300.
times 300. Okay. So I'm going to leave that ugly fraction, or I'm sorry, I keep calling it fraction, but decimal. I'm going to leave that decimal in there, and I'm going to do, for the top now, times 300. You get the same answer. This version, what we did here, is finding out how much is 1 using unit rate. Okay? So it's kind of like my stepping stone is unit rate. This person used what I call just common fraction numbers. Now, write your explanation.
6:30 in the THS band room, so please make sure you attend. There is mandatory track practice. It has already started. You should have been there starting yesterday. You'll need a t-shirt, shorts, sweatshirt, and sweatpants, and running shoes. You don't need any spikes. Dismiss on third round. Change and meet Coach Monday in the foyer in front of the gym. Just a reminder that there is no school on Monday for President's Day. 7th graders, please make sure you and your parents come to registration fair this Thursday at 5:30. All of your forms are due back for registration on February the 19th. You'll turn those into your Warrior Time teacher. Throughout this week, the counselors will come visit you in your PE classes to help you get ready for registration. Sports for this week. Tonight, girls soccer will be at Thompson High School. Wednesday, girls soccer will be at high school against Benjamin Russell. And Saturday, 7th and 8th grade baseball will be at Oxford. Just a reminder that 8th grade football workouts are canceled. 8th grade football workouts are canceled. And also, students, no Apple Watches, cell phones, holes can be in your jeans above the knee. Please make sure you remember those rules. They have been the same all year long. If anyone wants to assemble candygrams this afternoon, you can sign up with Miss Caldwell in the art room. And stencils will be sold outside of the cafeteria tomorrow morning. Also, 8th grade boys teams, please make sure for soccer you have all of your information. And once again, 7th and 8th grade baseball will be here again practicing at the middle school. We hope that you had a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow.
Okay, so on number 2, they are comparing how many kids share a locker out of basically total students. Okay, Just jump in on this one now. Okay, so 1 out of 12 students share a locker. That means the 1 has to be with share a locker, and 12 has to be with the total number. Okay, now, looking down here, when they say this part, you got to read it and figure out where it should go. It says with a school with 456 students. Is that sharing or total? Total. Okay, so I usually leave a little empty box. Not a big deal, just because I never know. Okay. So you've got to figure out, like, the numbers are kind of backwards here. Is 12 times anything 456? 38. Because if you do backwards division, like if you do 456 divided by 12, you get 38. So I'm just thinking, like my method was this. I did that, and then I did, 12 times 38 gave me that. So 1 times 38 is 38. Now, the other way is going to be weird, but it will work. And I'm just going to write it right here. I'm going to do it right below it. If you wanted to do unit rate, okay, so if you're wanting unit rate, what you're going to have to do, and this is the hard part, you're going to have to get 1 down here. Well, 12 divided by 12 is 1, right?
Yeah.
So, 1 divided by 12 is... Look, it's a horrible decimal. But, you can do this because, listen, what is your next step? I divided by 12 to get here. What do I do to get here?
Multiply.
Times 456, right? So if I just take that ugly decimal and I do times 456, do I get what everybody else is getting? 38.
When I did that, I got like some real weird long.
Okay, you got to keep the 1, if you're going to do this method, in there between the other two numbers. That top number, yes, is super ugly.
Yeah, I got those. First round both like I got 37. First round both maybe
38. If you have to. I'm going to keep going. Okay, so I'm going to do the next one. I'm just going to use friendly numbers. Here we go. So it says, if 84 cookies will serve 28 students, I'm going to do cookies to students. It says 84 cookies to 28 students. Well, if I'm trying to get down to 30 students, honestly, to me, the easiest way for me to do this one was to get 1 or 2. You could do 2. But how much does 1 student get? 28 divided by 28 is 1. 84 divided by 28 is 3. So 84 divided by 28 is 3. Well, if one student gets 3, how many do 30 get? It's times 30. $90. So 30 students would get 90 cookies. 30 students would get 90 cookies. You can do unit rate. You could have dropped it to a 2 and gotten 6. Like, it doesn't matter what pattern you use, as long as in the end you get 30 and 90. Okay, number 4. They got a survey of teenagers. 50 teenagers. They said that 9 of them get their news from the newspaper. If there were 300 teenagers, how many would get it from the newspaper? So, newspaper on top, or kids that look at the newspaper, I guess.
I love the newspaper.
Total kids on bottom. I love it. So 9 get information from the newspaper out of 50. What if there's 300? And guys, 50, I just think of like 2 50 cents make $1, right? Like 100. So if I have 300, how many 50 cents do I have? 6. So even if I'm not positive that my answer's right, I can take my calculator and say, well, is 50 times 6 300? Yes. So I'm jumping straight from here to here, and I'm using times 6. So if I do that on top, jumping straight from here to here,
That would be
54. So 54 students use the newspaper out of 300 total students. I probably would be a little bit more detailed if it was not the end of the day, but I'm trying to hurry. Yes. Teenagers, yes. I didn't mean, yes, that's another thing. And I should have put get their news from the newspaper, but I was trying to shorten it. Now, tonight's homework. Finish the other sheet. I need you to try them, okay? This is the other sheet. Okay, it says homework. Please sit down.
Will there be a video tonight?
The video is actually before this, and I did I think I did 3 or 4 of them. I think I did 4 of them on the video. So if you kind of start at the beginning and go backwards or go forward, you'll hear the notes, but then kind of fast forward it so you see this sheet.
Oh, this time.
Mm-hmm.
It is now time for car riders to leave this house.